Today we're going to read Sophie's Squash. Have you ever used something that was different than a doll, but you used it as a doll? Well, no one has ever tried that before, but if you did, you are very creative. If you didn't, then let's see in this book why Sophie has a squash as a toy. But I'm having one question in here. Why is Sophie using a squash as a toy doll instead of other dolls? Let's figure out by reading Sophie's Squash. One bright fall day, Sophie chose a squash at the farmer's market. Her parents planned to serve it for supper, but Sophie had other ideas. That's where the squash was from. It was just the right size to hold in her arms, just the right size to bounce on her knee, just the right size to love. I'm glad we met, Sophie whispered. Good friends are hard to find. At home, Sophie used markers to give her squash a face. Then she wrapped it in a blanket and rocked it to sleep. When it was time to make supper, Sophie's mother looked at the squash. She looked at Sophie. I call her Bernice, Sophie said. I'll call for a pizza, said her mother. Oh no, they're going to cook the squash. What's going to happen next? After that, Bernice went everywhere with Sophie, to story time at the library, to visit other squash at the farmer's market, to practice somersaults by the garden. Every night, Sophie gave Bernice a bottle, a hug, and a kiss. Well, we did hope she'd loved vegetables, Sophie's mother told her father. Shh, Sophie said. Bernice is sleeping. Oh. Sweet pea, Sophie's mother said one morning as they made blueberry waffles. Bernice is a squash, not a friend. If we don't eat her soon, she'll get mushy and gross. Let's bake her with marshmallows. Won't that taste yummy? Don't listen, Bernice, Sophie cried. That afternoon, Sophie's father took her shopping. Sugar beet, he said, Bernice is a squash. Why don't you pick a nice toy to play with instead? But the trucks were too hard and the dolls were too soft. Sophie clutched Bernice tightly. No thanks, she said. I have everything I need. After supper, Sophie's parents called a family meeting. Bernice napped in Sophie's lap. Why don't we donate Bernice to the food pantry before she rots? Her father suggested. Sophie shook her head. Bernice will last forever. Oh no, she won't let go of her little squash. But she does not like toy trucks because they were hard and dolls were too soft. Well, trucks are hard and dolls are too soft, but this is just right for her. What are her parents going to do? Let's see. Bernice seems a little blotchy, said Sophie's dad on the way to the library one day. She looks perfect to me, Sophie replied. At story time, some kids pointed and started. What's the spotty thing? A boy asked. Her name is Bernice, and she's a squash, Sophie said, with freckles. Maybe Bernice should stay home next time, Sophie's mom suggested. Why? Sophie asked. She wasn't the one being rude. Still, as winter neared, Sophie noticed changes. Bernice seemed softer, and her somersaults lacked their usual style. Visiting friends will cheer you up, Sophie said. At the farmer's market, squash was everywhere. Firm, shiny squash. What keeps a squash healthy? Sophie asked the farmer. It's simple, really, he said. Fresh air, good clean dirt. A little love. Well, Sophie thought, I have all that. At home, Sophie cleared the leaves from Bernice's favorite spot. She made a bed of soft soil, tucked Bernice in, and kissed her goodnight. Get better soon, she whispered. That night, while Sophie slept, the wind whistled, and tiny snowflakes fell. When she awoke, the world was covered in white. Do you think Bernice is cold out there? Sophie asked her mother. I'm sure she's warm and cozy under her snow blanket, her mother replied. Sophie gazed out the window all morning. She was still there in the afternoon when her father came home with a surprise. You need a new friend, he said. Meet Ace. Ace was nice, but boring. He just swam around and around in his bowl. But during the long winter, Sophie discovered that Ace was a silent reader who did fabulous flip turns, and he always listened politely when she talked about Bernice. Bernice was great at keeping secrets. Well, she has a little pet fish. Fish keep on swimming in their bowls because fish can't breathe at air. They can't breathe. They can only breathe in water. When the snow finally melted, Sophie rushed to the garden. The only thing there was a small green sprout. It looked strangely familiar. Bernice, Sophie said, how was your winter? After that, Sophie, Ace, and Bernice ate lunch together every day. One bright summer morning, Sophie somersaulted across her yard, landed by the garden, and stared in disbelief. Bernice had grown to a tiny squash. Wow, Sophie told them, you look just like your mom. Soon, Bonnie and Baxter were just the right size for Sophie to hold in her arms and bounce on her knee. Just the right size to love. The end. Now we know why she has a squash. First, she had a squash. Then, she started playing with that squash all the time. And her mother and her father tried to make her get something else, but she didn't want it. She just wanted Bernice and squash. The end.